A senior programmer at a major tech firm receives a $20,000 end-of-year bonus. The next morning, they hand in a resignation letter citing extreme burnout. Meanwhile, a volunteer Wikipedia editor logs in from home, dedicating 30 hours a week to meticulously verifying citations without ever seeing a single paycheck. To understand why people actually do the work they do, we have to define exactly what motivation is. In organizational psychology, it breaks down into 3 measurable components: intensity, which is how hard a person tries; direction, ensuring that effort is aimed at a beneficial goal; and persistence, which tracks how long a person can maintain that effort. Most corporate structures attempt to drive those 3 behaviors using extrinsic rewards. These are external, tangible incentives handed down from an employer to an employee. We're talking about base salaries, commission checks, yearly bonuses, and fringe benefits like health insurance or retirement plans. Those external payouts exist in contrast to intrinsic rewards. Intrinsic rewards are internal psychological satisfactions that occur during the actual process of performing a task. Things like the pride felt in a job well done, personal growth, expanding your competence, or the genuine enjoyment of the work itself. Many modern companies lean heavily on this model, doubling down on financial incentives when productivity stalls. Yet internal surveys across industries show a persistent gap between rising salaries and employee engagement. This suggests money alone may be an incomplete lever for driving human effort. If financial compensation were a perfect mechanism for drive, the highest paid employees would always be the most persistent and engaged. The reality observed in office buildings everywhere shows they often aren't. A deeper psychological mechanism dictates how human beings actually commit to a goal. This chart outlines Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a core psychological theory illustrating that human behavior is dictated by strict categories of need. Notice the bottom 2 layers: physiological and security requirements. In an office setting, these translate to base salaries and pension plans. These lower-order needs must be satisfied externally before a person has resentment capacity to focus on anything else. Once a worker secures reliable housing and food, their psychological focus shifts upward. Their desires move toward internal satisfactions, a sense of belonging, self-esteem, and finally, self-actualization, which in an organization looks like mastering a complex, challenging job. Building on Maslow, this next graphic shows ERG theory. It streamlines human desire into 3 distinct categories: existence, relatedness, and growth. Unlike a rigid pyramid, ERG theory acknowledges that an individual can be driven by multiple levels of these needs at the exact same time. ERG theory introduces a critical mechanism known as the frustration regression principle. If an employee's desire for high-level growth is blocked by their organization, perhaps through micromanagement or a lack of meaningful projects, that person doesn't just stop wanting things. Instead, their psychological drive regresses downward. They begin to obsess over lower-level existence needs. When a disengaged employee fixates on a raise or the break room snacks, ERG theory suggests we are seeing a manifestation of blocked growth. The focus shifts to existence needs because the path to personal development is closed. This infographic details Herzberg's 2-factor theory. It reveals a counterintuitive reality about the workplace. The elements that make us hate our jobs operate completely independently from the elements that make us love our jobs. Look at the left side, labeled hygiene factors. These are the baseline expectations: base wages, company policies, competent supervisors. Improving these factors will stop employees from being actively angry, but fixing them only pushes a worker to a neutral state of not dissatisfied. They do not generate positive drive. To push someone from neutral to highly engaged, you have to activate the right side, motivator factors. True satisfaction is triggered by internal markers, like taking on deep responsibility, earning genuine recognition, and the intrinsic nature of the work itself. But those internal motivators vary wildly from person to person. Psychologist David McClelland's acquired needs theory shows that the specific things that drive us are heavily shaped by our unique life experiences. McClelland identified 3 distinct psychological profiles. Some people operate on a need for achievement, hungering to master complex tasks and surpass their peers. Others run on a need for affiliation, prioritizing tight-knit relationships and avoiding conflict. A third group seeks a need for power, naturally looking to direct processes and influence others. Applying a universal copy-paste motivation strategy to a massive team will consistently fail. A manager's actual job is to diagnose the specific acquired needs of each individual and tailor the work environment to match. If external cash bonuses only satisfy baseline hygiene and true drive comes from complex, individualized internal needs, organizations face a serious operational challenge. How do you design a company that satisfies this deep psychological web? The solution requires a shift in focus. Instead of attempting to change financial rewards, leadership must redesign the unit of work an employee performs. This diagram illustrates job rotation, one of the most basic structural interventions. By systematically moving employees through different roles and workstations over time, organizations can mitigate extreme boredom and introduce variety without having to invent entirely new positions. Next is job enlargement. In highly specialized offices, tasks are often broken down into tiny, repetitive chunks. Job enlargement combines those isolated fragments into one cohesive sequence, giving the employee a sense of ownership over a complete process. The highest tier of workplace engineering is job enrichment. This is the process of intentionally designing high-level motivators directly into the daily routine. Leadership hands over decision-making autonomy, builds in public recognition, and ensures the task demands continuous learning. The volunteer Wikipedia editor finds their drive in the structure of the work itself. By combining autonomy, mastery, and purpose, the platform creates an enriched environment that functions without traditional financial levers. Effective management moves beyond the ledger to the structure of the work itself. When companies align their daily operations with the specific psychological needs of their people, engagement becomes a natural byproduct of the environment.